Thank you. First of all, let me apologize for being underdressed. On the morning of January 25th, 2019, 29 fully SWAT-clad FBI agents swarmed my home at 6 o'clock in the morning. They were brandishing fully automatic M4 assault weapons to arrest me for the completely fabricated crime of lying under oath to Congress about Russian collusion that we now know definitively never happened. There was a CNN camera 25 feet from my front door. I was told that CNN later received an award for their incisive investigative journalism that led them to believe that I would be arrested that very morning. I was arrested at 6:11. At 6:22, a producer from CNN texted a copy of my sealed indictment to my lawyer. Now, how could he have my sealed indictment that was not moved, that was not released until 11 o'clock in the morning? And if you looked at this document, it had no court stampings or timestamp, but it did have in the metadata tags the initials of the man who wrote it, Andrew Weissman, the de facto head of the Mueller witch hunt. I was taken to the FBI center in Miramar, Florida, where I was fingerprinted and mugshotted. I was taken then back to the federal courthouse in Fort Lauderdale, Virginia, where I pled not guilty. They put me in a holding cell with 3 African-American gentlemen. Sorry. They put me in a holding cell with 3 African-American gentlemen who I think were just coming around from a bender. I asked the guard if, since it was at 6 o'clock in the morning that I was arrested and I had not eaten, it was now about 10:30, if I could get something to eat, and they said no. One of those gentlemen gave me half of his peanut butter sandwich. The other one gave me the other half of his peanut butter sandwich. I then explained the 1994 crime bill to them and the fact that African Americans have been unfairly incarcerated because of Bill Clinton and Joe Biden and their criminal justice positions. By the time I left the holding cell to go up for my arraignment, they were chanting, "Roger Stone did nothing wrong." So I pled not guilty. I was arraigned. I was released without cash bail, which is interesting because the FBI and the Justice Department and Robert Mueller insisted that I had to be arrested in this manner because I was a flight risk. Although thanks to CNN, everybody knows what I looked like, and I didn't even have a valid passport. I finally got home in the late afternoon, and then my cell phone rang, but it was a number I didn't recognize, so I didn't answer it. And then it rang again, and I still didn't answer it. And then it rang a third time. This time I answered it, and it was Charlie Kirk. And I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I'd met him once or twice, but we weren't friends. I didn't know him. And he said, "I saw what happened. It is outrageous. We both know there is no Russian collusion. You and your wife are going to go through hell, you, your wife, and your family. But I want you to know that we will be with you. And I want to give you a piece of advice. Turn this horrific burden that you are about to go through, turn this horrific tribulation over to the Lord. Put yourself in the hands of God. Confess your sins, get right with the Lord, and I guarantee you, he will lift you up from your persecutors, and he will save you from the deadly snare that has been laid for you by Adam Schiff and Robert Mueller and the Clinton-Obama cabal. Charlie Kirk didn't have to do that, but I took his advice to heart. I went through a Soviet-style show trial in Washington, D.C. I was so naive to think that I would actually get a fair trial. Of course, long after I was convicted, only by order of a federal judge, the final Mueller report, long redacted, long hidden, was published, and it proved that they had found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part, that I was essentially charged to pressure me to testify falsely against President Donald Trump, which, of course, I refused to do. That Charlie Kirk came to me in my moment of doubt and pain in this time of crisis is something that I will remember for the rest of my life. I loved Charlie Kirk, and now, my friends, he is bigger in death than he ever was in life. Politics is about the future, not the past, but there is one matter we have to clean up. It has now been 156 days since the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, exposed through all of the declassified documents that the Russian collusion hoax was the greatest single dirty trick in American politics. It was an abuse of power in which the full authority of the United States government was used to topple a duly elected president. But more precisely, there was a seditious conspiracy that was born in the Oval Office in 2016 with Barack Obama present, Joe Biden, Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor, Vice President Biden, as I say, CIA Director, Islamic convert and communist CIA Director John Brennan, the FBI Director James Comey. This list goes on. My question is a simple one. It is not about revenge and retaliation. It is not about retribution. It is about accountability and justice. Will those who attempted to destroy Donald Trump, the people who not only dreamed up the Russian collusion hoax, but 2 phony impeachments, those responsible, in my opinion, for the theft of the 2020 election, those who staged the January 6th Fedsurrection, those who promulgated the phony documents case, and yes, those who raided Mar-a-Lago in Florida, will they be held accountable? Because this continuing seditious conspiracy ends in Florida, the correct jurisdiction is not Washington, D.C., where no Republican, no freethinker, no Trump supporter can receive a fair trial. The proper venue is South Florida, and I call for justice. Donald Trump has laid the groundwork for the greatest comeback in America's history because of his tax cuts, because of his regulatory cuts, and once we get a Federal Reserve Board that is non-political and get the interest rate cuts that Americans deserve based on the low inflation rate and the low unemployment rate, this will be the strongest economy in American history. Food prices are down, but they are not down low enough, and they're not down as low as they're going to go. Gas prices are down, and they're coming down very quickly. Inflation is low. Unemployment is low. See, I worked for Ronald Reagan. I remember those who were panicking in 1982. So I say to you, do not be a panicant. The president has appointed Tulsi Gabbard to a task force to examine the integrity and the security of electronic voting machines. I'm very hopeful that this is going to prove once and for all that the American people were robbed in 2020. And despite that, despite the fact that they tried to jail him, they tried to break him financially, they tried to keep him off the ballot in 50 states, Donald Trump scored the greatest single comeback in American political history. And if you keep faith with him and faith with the Lord, he will lead America to an unprecedented era of peace, prosperity, justice, and law and order. Thank you, and God bless you.